The late afternoon sun cast a golden hue over the quiet suburban street. As I stepped out onto my porch, expecting to find my long-awaited Amazon delivery, I had been tracking it all day, eagerly anticipating the new gaming headset I'd ordered. But as my eyes swept across the porch, a sense of dread immediately crept in. My package was gone. I walked closer to the spot where it should have been. But it was empty, nothing but the familiar welcome mat and the faint outline where the package had once rested. My stomach tightened, and my heart began to race. It wasn't just missing, it had vanished. With mounting frustration, I rushed inside to check my doorbell camera footage. The moment I pulled up the video feed, I could feel my blood pressure rising. There she was, Karen, the HOA president, striding up to my porch, with that ever-present smug grin of hers. No disguise. No attempt at being subtle. She didn't even glance around to see if anyone was watching. She simply walked right up, bent down, and picked up the package like it was her right to do so. I stared at the screen, replaying the moment over and over. Karen, with her shoulder-length blonde bob and oversized sunglasses, casually scooped up my package and strolled off, as if it was the most normal thing in the world. I was frozen for a second, processing the audacity of it all. My brand new gaming headset, the one thing I had been waiting for, was now in the hands of someone who probably didn't even know how to use it. My hands clenched into fists as my mind raced, flooded with a single thought: I wasn't going to let this go. This wasn't just about a package anymore, it was about principle. My mind was set. I wasn't about to let Karen get away with this. I grabbed my phone and stormed out the door, my feet pounding across the front yard as I marched toward her house. Her pristine lawn, meticulously manicured, felt like enemy territory. But I had no intention of backing down. I rang the doorbell, the chime echoing in the silence. Moments later, the door swung open with startling speed. Karen stood in front of me, her expression shifting from one of casual indifference to slight surprise. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice syrupy sweet, like she was pretending to be the perfect neighbor. I didn't waste any time. "Hey Karen. I think you accidentally took my package earlier today." Her brow furrowed slightly, but the feigned confusion on her face was almost comical. "Your package?" she repeated, tilting her head. "I'm not sure what you mean." "I saw you on my doorbell camera," I shot back, my voice calm but my words sharp. "You took it an hour ago." Her eyes widened for just a split second, before she quickly put on her innocent act. She gasped theatrically, clutching her chest as though I had accused her of something heinous. "Oh my goodness. That must have been a mistake. I thought it was mine." I narrowed my eyes at her, unamused. "Really? Because it had my name on it." She crossed her arms, her stance defensive. Maybe Amazon made a mistake and delivered it to the wrong house. I couldn't hide my frustration anymore. "No, Karen. They didn't. I watched you take it off my porch. I literally saw you steal it." Karen let out an exaggerated sigh, shaking her head as though she was dealing with an unruly child. "Listen," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "I don't appreciate being accused of theft. Maybe you should check with Amazon instead of coming here and harassing me." I gritted my teeth, barely holding back my anger. "All right," I said, stepping back and forcing a tight smile. "If you're sure you don't have it, I'll just check with the HOA. I'm sure they'd love to see the footage." At the mention of the HOA, I saw it, a brief flicker of concern in her eyes. Her lips pressed together. But before she could say anything, the sound of a small dog barking hysterically from inside interrupted us. Karen glanced back at the noise, flustered, and in that moment, I saw it. The package. Right there. Sitting on her entryway table. Still sealed. Still mine. I could have pushed further, but I knew how this was going to play out. Karen wasn't going to admit anything. She was going to play the victim, twist the situation, and make me the bad guy. I'd had enough of her games. I turned on my heel and walked away without another word. But not before delivering one final, cold remark. "No worries, Karen," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll take care of it." Her eyes narrowed, clearly sensing something was off. But I didn't give her the chance to respond. As I walked back home, I could already feel the wheels turning in my head. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Back in my house, I couldn't just sit back and let Karen continue her thievery without consequences. I grabbed my laptop and began scrolling through the neighborhood Facebook group, a place where neighbors shared everything from recommendations to complaints. As I scrolled, I came across post after post about missing deliveries, packages that had disappeared into thin air. And what caught my eye even more was the fact that many of these incidents had occurred within a few houses of mine. My blood began to boil. This wasn't a coincidence. Karen had been doing this for a long time. And it was clear she'd been getting away with it all this time. I needed to do something about it, and fast. I quickly opened the Facebook group and typed up a post. "Hey neighbors. Just a heads up. I caught someone on my doorbell cam stealing a package off my porch today. If you've had packages go missing, you might want to check your security footage. I'll be sharing mine soon." I hit post and sat back, watching as the comments started flooding in almost immediately. People were furious. "Oh my God. Was it Karen?" I knew it. "She took my daughter's birthday gift last month. She's been stealing from everyone for months. How do we stop her?" The outrage was palpable. And my satisfaction grew with each new comment. Karen's actions were finally being exposed. And the neighbors were clearly fed up. But I knew Karen well enough to understand that she'd try to weasel her way out of this. She always played the innocent victim. I needed to gather undeniable proof. Something that would leave no room for her to escape the consequences. That night, I put my plan into motion. I grabbed an empty Amazon box, carefully placed a small GPS tracker inside, and sealed it up. The bait was set, and I could already imagine Karen sneaking up to my porch, eager to steal yet another package. This time, though, she wouldn't get away with it. I positioned my camera to get the perfect shot, then dimmed the lights and waited. 30 minutes later, a familiar figure appeared on my screen. There she was, Karen, peeking out from behind her curtains, scanning the yard like a predator on the hunt. She crept across the lawn, eyes darting from side to side, before she reached the porch. The moment she bent down to grab the box, I couldn't help but smirk. "Gotcha." Karen looked around once more, then snatched the box and quickly scurried back to her house, oblivious to the tracker that was now on its way into her hands. I opened the GPS app on my phone. The package was inside her house. She had just walked right into my trap. And I couldn't wait to see what would happen next. The moment I confirmed Karen had stolen the package again, I knew it was time to escalate the situation. I wasn't just going to let her continue her reign of theft and entitlement. I needed to get back at her in a way that she would never forget. And who better to help me than Mark? My old friend with a flair for the unconventional. I called him up, my voice filled with determination. "Mark, I need your help with something extreme." Mark, ever the conspiracy theorist, didn't even flinch. "I'm listening. What's the plan this time?" "I need to make sure Karen never steals another package," I said. "I'm thinking something she'll really regret. Something memorable." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then, I heard Mark chuckle, low and menacing. "I think I know exactly what you need." The next afternoon, Mark arrived with a large plastic box in tow. And I couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. "What's that?" "This," Mark said with a grin, "is the key to our revenge." He opened the box to reveal a colony of angry, restless rodents, rats, to be exact. I felt a shiver of hesitation run down my spine. But I pushed it aside. Karen had pushed me too far. Mark carefully transferred the rodents into an Amazon box, making sure they had enough space to roam. The box was sealed shut. but I could hear the frantic rustling from within. Mark was clearly in his element, handling the situation with the care and precision of a mad scientist. "We'll set this trap tonight," he said, closing the box with a sly smile. "When Karen opens it, chaos will unfold." That night, I set the package on my porch, right where Karen would see it. I positioned my camera, dimmed the lights, and waited. As expected, Karen didn't waste any time. Less than an hour later, I saw her silhouette creeping out of her house. She moved like a shadow, darting across the lawn to my porch. My heart pounded in my chest. This was it. The second she grabbed the box, I knew it was game over. She scurried back to her house with the same eager expression she always wore when stealing something. I could almost hear her gloating, imagining what treasures awaited her inside. But the moment she opened that box, everything went to hell. A deafening squeal filled the air as the rodents erupted from the package like an army of fury. They swarmed her house, crawling over her furniture, darting across the floor, and making their way to every corner. Karen's scream rang out like a banshee as she frantically tried to escape. I could see her from my window, flailing her arms, trying to brush the rodents off. But they were everywhere, under her feet, climbing up her legs, swarming her like a living nightmare. She tripped, crashing into her coffee table, sending it toppling over. Her tiny chihuahua, caught in the chaos, yapped and ran in circles, adding to the pandemonium. Mark and I watched through the camera, stifling our laughter. This was it, the moment of pure, unadulterated revenge. But the best part? Karen didn't stop there. She bolted out of the house, her face twisted in rage and terror. In her desperation to escape, she grabbed the garden hose and started spraying herself down, water soaking her from head to toe as she screamed at the top of her lungs. The rodents followed her every step, relentless in their pursuit. It didn't take long before she did the unthinkable. She called 911. 911. "What's your emergency?" The dispatcher's voice crackled through the phone. "Help!" Karen shrieked. "I'm under attack. Not by burglars, but by rodents. Someone sent me a box of rats. I need help. Now." Within minutes, sirens blared down the street. A fire truck, an ambulance, and a police car pulled up in front of Karen's house. The scene was nothing short of a disaster. As firefighters and paramedics scrambled to deal with the situation, Karen, drenched and covered in welts from rat bites, stood on the curb, pointing frantically at my house. A police officer walked up my driveway, giving me a skeptical look. "Sir, your neighbor claims you booby-trapped a package with rats." I acted innocent, putting on my best shocked face. "What? No way, officer. That's insane. Who would do something like that?" The officer squinted at me. "Do you have any idea how this happened?" I shrugged nonchalantly. "Well, I did hear she's been stealing a lot of packages lately. Maybe someone finally got fed up." Karen screamed from across the street. "It was him. It was him. He did this to me." The officer turned to her, unimpressed. "Do you have any proof?" "Ma'am," Karen, flustered, sputtered. "He has cameras. His doorbell camera. Check it." The officer sighed, rubbing his forehead. "All right. Let's take a look." I pulled up the footage for them. The look on Karen's face shifted from rage to pure horror as she watched the video, where she could clearly be seen stealing my package. The officer turned back to her, his face deadpan. "So you're admitting you stole the package?" Karen's mouth opened and closed, no words coming out. She was caught. Finally. The officer sighed, exasperated. "You're lucky we have bigger things to deal with right now. But I suggest you stop taking things that don't belong to you." The firefighters worked to clear the rodents from her house, but Karen was still shaking with rage. She stood there, drenched and humiliated, her eyes locked onto me like I was her personal nemesis. It was over. But I knew she wouldn't let it go. The battle between us had just begun. The morning after the whole rat incident, It became clear that Karen wasn't going to take her humiliation lying down. Instead of retreating into her corner, she doubled down, her pettiness escalating to new levels. I woke up to find my trash cans overturned and food scraps scattered across my driveway like some kind of juvenile revenge. The smell of rotten food hit me the second I opened my front door. I pulled up the footage from my doorbell camera. Sure enough, there she was, Karen, sneaking across my lawn at 2:45 a.m., giggling to herself like a gremlin, as she tossed the bags of food scraps everywhere. I couldn't even get mad at how blatant she was being. Honestly, I was impressed by her commitment to being petty. I cleaned up the mess without a word, determined not to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. But Karen wasn't done yet. The next day, I started having issues with my internet. It would cut out randomly, disrupting everything. At first, I chalked it up to technical problems. But then I found the tampered wires on the side of my house. Someone had pulled out a few key wires, just enough to mess with my connection. It didn't stop there. I started receiving strange emails, complaints about noise violations from non-existent loud parties, parking fines for a car I didn't even own, and official warnings about aggressive behavior toward my neighbors. It didn't take a genius to figure out what was going on. Karen had gone full scorched earth mode, weaponizing every neighborhood rule she could find to make my life a living nightmare. But I wasn't going to let her get away with this. I turned to Mark for help once again, knowing he'd have the crazy idea to put Karen in her place. And boy, did he deliver. The plan we came up with would be the perfect payback. We would build the ultimate revenge package, something so catastrophic that Karen would never dare to mess with me again. We spent the entire day putting it together, a glitter bomb, filled to the brim with the most obnoxious, impossible to clean glitter imaginable. But that wasn't all. Mark had an idea to make it even worse: fart spray. He rigged a small mechanism inside the package that would release an unbearable stench when opened. And just to add the final touch, we included a speaker that would play a pre-recorded message once the box was detonated. The box was perfect. It looked like a regular Amazon delivery, labeled high-def home security camera system for maximum irony. I placed it on my porch, right in Karen's line of sight. She wouldn't be able to resist. It didn't take long. Less than 2 hours later, I got the motion alert on my phone. I opened the live feed to see Karen practically vibrating with excitement as she approached the package. She grabbed it eagerly and rushed inside. The perfect mark for my prank. I held my breath as I waited for her to open it. And then, boom! The package exploded in a cloud of glitter, sending shimmering specks flying everywhere. Karen screamed in pure rage. Her body covered head to toe in glitter. It was even in her hair, in her clothes, on her face. As she staggered out of the house, gagging, the fart spray hit. The smell was so horrendous. It made my eyes water just watching it unfold. She retched, stumbled back inside, and slammed the door behind her. But that wasn't the end of it. The glitter bomb was designed to spread more glitter with every movement she made. The more she touched things, the worse it got. The entire inside of her house was now coated in fine glitter. And even her poor little chihuahua, caught in the chaos, was covered in it too. From my window, I could see Karen frantically swatting at herself, trying to brush off the glitter. But it only made it worse. She was a walking glitter nightmare. And her house was quickly turning into a sparkly disaster zone. The best part? The speaker crackled to life just as Karen opened the door, playing the pre-recorded message loud and clear. "Congratulations, package thief. You've been caught." Karen's face twisted with fury as she let out a scream that I'm sure could be heard across the entire neighborhood. At that moment, the neighbors, who had already had enough of her antics, started to gather on their porches, watching the spectacle. People were laughing, recording videos, and gossiping about how this was the final straw for Karen. Soon, the HOA had no choice but to step in, armed with complaints from multiple neighbors who had finally had enough. They fined Karen for her actions. And the neighborhood rallied together to publicly shame her. It wasn't long before she was forced to leave. A moving truck pulled up to her house a week later. And I couldn't help but feel a small sense of victory as I watched her pack up. Still faintly glittery from head to toe. Her face frozen in a permanent scowl of humiliation. No one offered to help her. And no one said goodbye as the moving truck pulled away, taking Karen and her reign of terror with it. The neighborhood finally felt lighter, more peaceful. That night, Mark and I sat on my porch, sipping beers, watching the sunset. "You did it," Mark said, raising his bottle with a grin. "I did," I agreed, clinking my bottle against his. No more stolen packages. No more HOA complaints. And definitely no more Karen. Just as I thought the peace was permanent, I heard the familiar sound of a delivery truck pulling up to my house. I stood up, watching as the driver placed a box on my porch, my actual, long-awaited package. Victory had never tasted so sweet. And that's the end of today's story. What do you think about Karen's downfall? Do you think she finally got what she deserved? Or do you have your own thoughts on how it should have gone down? I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more crazy HOA drama, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to HOA Karen Stories. Your support helps me bring you even more wild stories like this one. So hit that bell icon too, so you never miss out on the latest episodes. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you next time with another tale of neighborhood chaos.